I understand. Thank you, sir. You ready?
Okay. Ready? Oh, yeah.
Are we up? Good morning. I'd like to open this August 25th, 2010 meeting of the Camino Real Regional Mobility Authority. It is approximately 11:04 a.m. Excited for the opportunity. First up, call to order and comments of the chair. I am grateful for the opportunity to continue to serve this community. I am equally grateful for the continued support and dedication of the board and the staff, and we look forward to doing great things. I would be remiss without saying especially a large thanks to our former chair, Mr. Harold Hahn. He and I came on the board at the same time. I personally have enjoyed getting to know Harold. I didn't know Harold prior to my appointment, and Harold's dedicated, hardworking, efficient, smart, common sense way of handling the affairs of the RMA and doing business in general, I think has positioned this board to do great things and continue to do great things for this community. So I'm excited, and I look forward to kind of advancing the foundation that both Harold and our first chair, John Broadus, put in place to continue to bring innovative transportation and mobility solutions to this community. With that, I would ask Mr. Tejas to kind of update us kind of on the status of the board, on some appointments, and kind of where we're at today.
Sir, Raymond Tejas, Executive Director, for the record. As you know, we've had one open position for some time now after Mr. Tannyberg left the board. Beyond that, as Mr. McLaughlin moves up into the chair position, now we have 2 vacancies. Recently, in fact, I believe it was yesterday, if not the day before, I received a draft resolution that the city is preparing to nominate 2 individuals for those open positions, and beyond that, to also make certain amendments to the nomination and appointment process. As you know, that process is somewhat cumbersome at this time, so the city is looking to fix that. So that draft, like I say, I think it was yesterday that I saw the final version of the draft, so I'm hopeful that the council will take that item up either next week or, if not, then the following week. So hopefully we will have a fully staffed board before too long.
Great.
Any comment? Any public comments?
No public comments.
Terrific. Item 3, discussion and action on the election of the CRRMA Secretary and Alternate Secretary for terms to run through the first board meeting in February of 2011. Mr. Tejas.
As you know, with Mr. McLaughlin's previously served as the secretary of this board. With his move to the chair position, now we have a vacancy in the secretary. Currently, Mr. Bayan serves as the alternate secretary, so I've placed this item on for a nomination and election process for the secretary and alternate secretary. So I leave that with the board.
Great. And I had an opportunity to kind of review some of our bylaws and just to kind of refresh our memories. The secretary and treasurer do not necessarily need to be directors of the CRRMA. So if there is a time down the road that may be more expedient, then we can do that. Is that correct, Mr. Tejas?
That's correct, yes, sir.
So what action is required here in terms of...
I would request a motion and a second for, and normally this board will do it as one action where an individual would be nominated for the secretary and a second individual will be nominated for the alternate secretary, usually by one motion and a second.
All right.
I nominate Susan for secretary.
And for alternate?
He's alternate.
I don't know.
Stays alternate.
I can stay as alternate. That's fine with me.
There's only 4 of us.
Right. Susan, thank you for your service. Is there a motion?
I make the motion.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Susan, thank you. Adoption of the minutes of the CRRMA meeting of June 30th, 2010. Has everyone had an opportunity to review those minutes?
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Minutes are approved. update and presentation on the State Spur 601 Interloop project by the developer J.D. Abrams. Good morning.
Good morning. Hello. Is this thing on? My name is Kalen Johnson with J.D. Abrams. I was going to do a brief presentation on an update on the Spur 601 project. I've got a PowerPoint presentation to put through to show to you. What we've got is, let's see if I can figure this out here. All right. Overview of a map of the location of the spur. You can see the location between 54 and 375. Our schedule. What we've had was the project broken down into segments. I think most of you who have been involved with the project know all this. So for those who haven't, segment A1, we had a milestone to open on August 31st. This has all been achieved and open on time. A2 segment opened on May 29th of 2009. A3, we had an eastbound and a westbound milestone. The eastbound portion opened December 3rd, 2009. The westbound opened April 15th of 2010, earlier this year. Segment B1 and segment B2 are the primary focus of work that's currently going on. They both have a requirement, a milestone, to be open January 28th, 2011. Currently, our project is 92% complete, with the primary focus of the project course over in segment B2. Right now, I'm going to cover some basic, or some briefly the items of the project, covering under design, right-of-way acquisition, utility accommodation, construction, and the schedule. On design, currently we're 100% complete with design. What we do capture is as-built information that's being updated continually. Under right-of-way, our acquisition of final right-of-way is 90% complete, with I believe just 3 areas of acquisition needing to be fulfilled. Right of entry, currently we have no more right of entries required of the project. Under utilities, our utility design is 100% complete, and relocation is 99%. We have a couple of utilities we're still working with. As our construction items complete, they will have the opportunity to get installed. Currently, our construction, we're listed at 90% complete, and the schedule, 88% of the time has been used as of August 30th.
Excuse me. Before you move on, acquisition 90%, what's left to be acquired?
I'll be going through those items, mainly items with the city of El Paso, the airport, and I believe we'll get to it here. And here's under right-of-way acquisition. All these items that I'll go through quickly have all been complete, and if anything that jumps out that you've got questions about, let's see, there's all parcel 1 with the railroad have been executed. Everything with Fort Bliss with parcel 2 have all been executed, and the leaseholds have all been acquired. There wasn't anything required of the El Paso Chili company building, which is parcel 3. The city of El Paso, this is where the 3 items I believe is to be completed yet. This is parcel 4. They're all 3 scheduled to be completed next month. These are with the city of El Paso, Sun Metro, and the airport. Everything else, parcel 5 with the Humane Society, 6 with city of El Paso, the street department, I believe was over on segment A1. Was all complete, is being completed. And did that answer your question?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Under utility accommodations, all these utilities have been dealt with except for Time Warner Telecom and AT&T. Time Warner Telecom has a fiber optic line that currently cannot be, the route of this cannot be accessed due to current construction activities. And we do have plans to work with with them prior to the end of the year to get a fiber optic line run from the Chaffee intersection up to a street west of Dyer Street, west of the project, outside the project limits. With AT&T, all it remains is to complete some final work in punch list items in the boxes, some of these large vaults. As we get some of the boxes have had to be covered up for traffic control, and access to them has been limited. So we've got some final work in those to clean up. Those are the only two remaining, and we're currently in the process of closing out all the utility agreements.
Is there any issue with the Time Warner Telecom, or do you anticipate that'll be finished on time?
I do anticipate that'll be finished on time. They have a window of November, I believe November, December, that they need to, or maybe it's even before November, but they have a window we've currently got scheduled with them to be able to get their cable installed. And these are items of work that our subcontractor will pull the cable, and then the utility will do the terminations. All right, on activities, under segment A1, it was a construction of the extension of Global Reach from George Perry to the Spur 601 and relocation of Walter Jones Drive. The extension opened up to traffic on August 31st and has been accepted by TxDOT, and as of this week has now been accepted by the City of El Paso. All the final punch list items have been agreed upon. That's of early this week. I think it was Monday. And then on segment A2, the Spur 601 from the east abutment of the Global Reach overpass, and including Loop 375 interchange, currently is in punch list. We opened traffic to it May 29th. These punch list items are currently being worked as we get crews available to go to work on these items. These items are to be done at the time of the final completion of the project. Similar to A2 is segment A3. The remainder of the segment A, which is from Airport Drive interchange and the Spur over to Global Reach. The opening dates we had for milestones that were December 3rd of 2010 for eastbound, and then April 15th of 2010 for westbound. These traffic is in full operation and use of this portion of the project, and currently we have a few punch list items being worked off the right of way, off of the side of the road in the right of way, to all be complete with the end of the project. The primary work right now that's going on is in segment B1 and B2. In B1, this is a segment defined by Marshall Drive over to Airport Road, and we have a final opening date of January 28th of 2011. Traffic was switched up onto the viaduct for the eastbound portion of the viaduct, both east and westbound travel lanes, in March, and we are continuing construction of retaining walls, the viaduct, and parts of the direct connects that are in this area still remain or in progress. In segment B1, under the viaduct, we have, as of late here, beams are complete for the main structure, and that's all the beams necessary to support the deck are complete for this segment. Decks are in progress. We have 5 remaining placements to complete, and this will make these 5 remaining placements will make a contiguous deck surface for the whole viaduct. And we should have traffic switched up on this westbound portion of the viaduct for the westbound lanes in November. And this work will, by switching traffic, will gain access to some areas that we have currently being used for detour right now that we can't get to until we do switch the traffic. As we've completed the viaduct, it's also opened up areas of work for the service road, which is the access road to businesses underneath the viaduct. As we've completed the overhead structures, we're now in process of making the roadbed for the service road, which right now is at the basically Chaffee working westward up to, right now, the cemetery and Sun Metro entrances. This work, you'll be starting to see some work that's coming up, getting us access to the north portion of the service road, which will get us the driveways of all Sun Metro and the areas of parking lots that have been currently used under construction, that the Sun Metro will end up using part of the right-of-way for their parking. You'll start seeing some of those activities begin here shortly, and gaining access to anything that's got landscaping that has a window of installation in between September and November. In this area too is part of Marshall Road. The Marshall Road realignment is underway, and we're currently building the sub-base parts of this roadway with the asphalt base, and to start next week will be concrete paving. And this is to tie in the parts of Marshall that were completed underneath the viaduct, tying it into the existing bridge structure going to the north. Segment B2 is an area defined by US 54 over to Marshall Road. It too has a completion date of January 28th of 2011. This area still has work remaining with retaining walls, the viaduct, direct connectors, the sub and the superstructure, and will be worked on throughout the period all the way to the end of the project in January of 2011. With segment B2 on the viaduct, the decks are complete for this segment. There are currently T501 safety rail is in progress to support the traffic switch in November. The concrete approach work is in progress. We've completed the approach slab for the bridge this week, and the approach concrete that ties into the intersection at 54 is ongoing. It's going to be this week and next week. The direct connectors, decks are all complete for the north to east direct connect, the south to east direct connect, and part of the west to north up to bent 10. Currently in progress now is the west to south, and deck placements are advancing from the south up to the steel structure crossing 54. The final parts of the west to north will be our last parts of the structure, which is adjacent to the Chili Company's property. They'll be our last decks, which we should be complete in early December. The decks will be complete. Currently, is there any questions about the project progress and activities? All right. Currently, the Spur 601 project personnel, we have a total of 359 people on the project. With our Abrams workforce directly working on the projects at 230, our Abrams staff is 25, subcontractors workforce is 75. We have 2 designers still on staff for helping us get through change orders and for their change orders and design issues. TxDOT staff, we have 15, and then construction quality assurance staff is 12. On the pass-through toll payments, traffic counting began May 29th in segment A2. The eastbound segment of A3 began on December 3rd, and the westbound segment of A3 began on April 15th. We've got some pictures of some before and after on the project. The intersection at Chaffee, here's an image of it taken in October of 2008 on an aerial flight that we have the opportunity to get overhead with. And this is in July last month of the bridge structure completed with the frontage roads tying into the intersection. Progress in about a little more than a year and a half. Here's the intersection at Airport as it was in October 2008. And then the airport as it was last month, with the all the connectors from the base tying into Airport Road and all the frontage and ramps tying into the base and the spur. intersection at 54 and with including Railroad and the spur. So you can see on the southern portion of the area paralleling the Railroad bridge of Fred Wilson, you can see project progress has already started. And one lone bent out in the middle of 54 to support the SE to progress of July 2010, this last month, with the steel structure being the latest of the additions in that work. Here's an image of the access control point at Global Reach, showing all complete for where it ties into the base, and Global Reach headed to the south. Constitution, access control point for entrance into the base to the north. This is a view looking eastward down the spur towards Loop 375. And the intersection of Loop 375 itself, looking northeasterly onto the base there at the intersection. We had the opportunity to help the school on the base and do some community work with getting their, at least part of their basketball court replaced. We replaced one basketball court and gave them a parking and a little bit of a turnaround area there as a community service deal for them. They're very appreciative, and we completed that work last month.
That was very generous of you. Thank you for that.
Yes. That concludes my presentation, and appreciate the time you've given me, and thank you. Any questions?
Any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I've had the opportunity to drive some of the recent infrastructure, and I never thought of infrastructure as beautiful until just recently. I gained kind of a new appreciation, and it is really quite striking, so thank you for your efforts.
You get down to certain areas of it, it's pretty amazing. Taking certain pictures down below, I've got a lot of photos taken of it. It's pretty impressive.
Yes, sir. Okay. Item number 6, update and presentation on the status of the following projects by the Texas Department of Transportation: Loop 375 Northeast Main Lines Project and Loop 375 at FM 659 Zaragoza Direct Connectors Project. Mr. Berry?
Mr. Chairman, board members, thank you. I'm going to take this opportunity and proceed our presentation with a welcome to the new chair and offer to continue our, I think, what I consider excellent working relationship between TxDOT and the Camino Real Regional Mobility Authority, your board and your executive director. I'd asked Eduardo prior to his presentation on this item to allow me to congratulate you and welcome you to the region and let you know that we look forward to continue working together with you. With that, I'm going to ask that Eduardo Calvo, our Director of Planning, make that presentation to you on the progress on the two projects.
Thank you very much. We very much appreciate your support to this community.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chair, if I could just take a brief moment. This is as a general reminder to the board and also to the public. The City of El Paso, the El Paso Metropolitan Planning Organization, the Texas Department of Transportation, and also the CRRMA are all partners in what's referred to as the 2008 Comprehensive Mobility Plan. Within that plan of 15 projects, there are 3 referred to as traditional roadway projects that the RMA is pursuing. The first of those is, of course, the Americas Interchange project, and the remaining 2 are the 2 items on this agenda item for you. What the RMA and TxDOT had previously agreed to was that TxDOT would take them through various stages of development prior to the RMA taking over those projects. So what you're receiving today is an update from TxDOT with regard to those 2 remaining projects just prior to us taking them over.
Thank you, Mr. Reyes.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chair. And again, let me echo what Mr. Berry said. Congratulate you and look forward to working with you and continue working with the board as well.
Thank you.
And feel free to put me on the spot like Mr. Han used to do all the time. So.
I'll try to be as as great as he was at that. If I could just ask anyone that is speaking to kind of introduce themselves for the record before they proceed. Thank you, Mr. Calvo.
And again, Eduardo Calvo with TechStat here in El Paso. As Mr. Tellez said, I'm going to give you a brief update on projects number 3 and 5 of the 2008 Comprehensive Mobility Plan. These are the two of the projects that are, as Mr. Tellez said, are part of the Comprehensive Mobility Plan. This map is the one that was created when the plan was originally conceived, and so far it's been consistent. You see the red projects that Mr. Tellez referred to. Those are 8 traditional roadway improvements. The RMA is responsible, well, it's not responsible, but the plan is for the RMA to develop project number 3, 5, and 6. Number 6 is the I-10 Americas interchange that I think Mr. Tellez will brief you on later. Project number 5, which is the Joe Battle at Zaragoza interchange, and project number 3, which is the construction of the main lanes of Loop 375 in the northeast. Again, the blue projects are the toll projects that, again, the plan is for the RMA to take over the development of those projects later on. But again, we're going to concentrate right now on number 3 and 5. This chart, again, as background, is the original chart that shows the funding sources of each of the projects. Again, it's very complicated. It's full of colors because of all the amendments that have been made since it was originally approved in July of 2008. But if you have any questions about these, I'll be more than happy to answer them. So jumping first to project number 3, this map is the location map of Trans Mountain in the northeast. The scope of the work is to build the main lanes of Loop 375, pretty much from Dyer Street on the eastern termini, and going west, go under US 54, the underpass, and then complete the main lanes on the western side of US 54 going up the mountain. This job, there's about $80 million identified for this job, and the funding we've got, or the plan has $60 million of Category 2 dollars and $20 million of Transportation Reinvestment Zone funds. This is from the city of El Paso, and again, the mechanism to get those dollars into the project is a little more complicated, but we can get into that if you're interested. The schematic design for this project has been completed, and I have that schematic also. If you guys have any questions, any detailed questions, we can bring it up on the screen. The environmental document, which is an environmental assessment, is currently being worked on by the district, the Environmental Affairs Division of TxDOT, and Federal Highway Administration. So we're hoping to have that, the approval in early 2011, hopefully in January, or if not early February. In terms of right-of-way, we are coordinating with Fort Bliss the construction and permanent easements that we need for these for the completion of the main lanes, and this would be on the section west of US 54, only for that piece. The other right-of-way element that we have on the eastern side is a relocation of a well, a pump station that currently belongs to the PSV, and that's a relatively easy thing to do. But in order for us to proceed with this, we need to wait for the new STIP, which is a statewide transportation improvement program, to be approved at the state level. And that is scheduled to happen sometime in October. So once that happens, we can start moving with right-of-way activities. And finally, the design and construction of the job of this project would be turned over to the Camino Real RMA. So again, this is just a very generic status report on these activities.
Do you have the schematic design easily to pull up? I'd be curious to see what that looks like.
I think we can. I don't know if I can do it from here. Is this readable for you all? This is, let me start from west to east. Okay. What you see north to south is US 54. The elements you see in orange are the main lanes. That would be part of the construction. So if we start on the west side, you see the project as you're coming down the mountain. The main lanes would tie into the existing lanes at the point where the orange begins, and we would be doing some work on the driveways to access the museums. Then continue eastbound, and obviously doing some work on the frontage roads and the connections. And then once we hit US 54, the main lanes would go under US 54, so that would create a three-level interchange. Moving east, we've got some on and off ramps to be able to connect to the frontage roads, the existing frontage roads of Loop 375 in the northeast, and providing access to some of the cross streets. The first grade separation would be at Kenworthy. And then moving east, I'm running out of space here. Okay, another grade separation at Rushing, and then continuing east. Need to move down. I think I lost here my bearings. These are huge files. Then as we move to the east termini, we would continue the structure at the at Alcan and then tie into the existing main lanes at Dyer. So
Is everything at grade, other than, I guess, I didn't realize we're going under US 54?
right. We're going under US 54, and this is all under the existing right-of-way. We don't need to acquire additional right-of-way. It's all within the footprint that currently exists. So again, yeah, the main lanes will be pretty much at grade, and then just going over the intersections at Kenworthy, Rushing, and Alcan, and tying in around to the main lanes at Dyer.
Right, thank you.
Eduardo, just a quick question. It may be for later, but I'm curious because I know that area fairly well. It's quite a busy intersection right there on 54 and 375. And I can project 10, 20 years in the traffic being backed up on the fast lanes, the highway itself, to exit and enter. Are we looking at that possibility that there might be safety problems? Similar to, for example, when you're going to the airport and exit I-10 on the airways, no? It backs up, and I've often had to stop right in the middle of the freeway, and cars even having to swerve over to the shoulder because they're coming so fast and have to brake. And that intersection is so busy with that Walmart there and that stuff there. I'm afraid that if we don't really do a good job there, we may have safety problems.
Actually, and when the design was being executed, we looked at all the traffic projections and the traffic movements. And as we were going through the process, we did look at different configurations of on and off ramps because yeah, you're absolutely right. It is a pretty busy area. The Walmart, there's Lowe's, and many other commercial establishments. But as we do with most of our projects, we look at future traffic projections and design, taking those projections into consideration. Again, as the city grows and traffic grows, there's going to be other improvements that may be needed at the time. But some of the that is not included in this project, but some additional elements that have been looked at as an ultimate design for the future would be the construction of direct connectors connecting Loop 375 and US 54, so that would take away some of the traffic that would make those movements and that really don't need to stop at the commercial establishments, and that way you separate and and reduce the conflict between traffic movements. But that is not part of the scope of this project yet.
Thank you.
That'll be a future project, hopefully.
Right.
Okay, so again, for this project, again, if you have any other questions in terms of what's next, and Raymond, feel free to jump in. I think the next step would be or some of the things that need to happen before we turn over the project to the RMA, we need some formal actions by the Texas Transportation Commission to formalize awarding the project to the RMA so that the RMA can go on and develop the project. And then there's a lot of agreements that need to be entered in following the same steps as I-10 Americas. Hopefully, we learned some of the lessons and we'll take less time than we did for I-10 Americas. But there's project development agreements, possibly a SIB loan. But again, those are decisions that the RMA is going to have to take. But there's going to be a lot of agreements that we need to enter in.
I would only mention at this time that, as you all know, we have a project development agreement that we refer to as the planning PDA. That agreement gave us initial funding from TxDOT that we utilize on the 3 comprehensive mobility plan projects, including this one and the one that we're going to discuss next. That funding provides us the resources that we need to utilize our general engineering consultant to begin looking at these projects and identifying issues that would need to be taken care of during either the design or actually the procurement process. So we actually have the funds available and they're waiting. As soon as TxDOT is able to turn this project over to us, we have the resources to accept the project and begin the preliminary work to move these along.
All right, so let me move to project number 5, which is the Loop 375 Joe Battle at the Zaragoza or FM 659 interchange. The scope of the project really is to build two direct connectors, 2 ramps that would go from northbound Joe Battle to eastbound Zaragoza, and then the opposite movement. For this project, there's $32 million identified for the completion of the project, $12 million in Category 2, and $20 million in TRZ from the City of El Paso. On this one, again, the schematic design has been completed, and the environmental is very close to being approved. We're anticipating an approval by October of this year. That would allow us to initiate the right-of-way acquisition formally. Again, on this project, in the same way as for Loop 375 and the I-10 Americas project, the TxDOT will be carrying over all the right-of-way acquisition activities, as you know, that was part of the original agreement. And then finally, the design and construction will be turned over to the RMA. On this one, we had some action last month by the commission, where the commission approved a minute order where the project was formally turned over to the RMA, and again, subject to signing all the detailed project development agreements and all that. So we, at least on this one, we took one of those administrative steps that are required. That's pretty much it. That's all I have. On this one, I also have the schematic if you're interested in looking at it, or if you have any other questions.
Any questions? Mr. Caldwell, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Tejas, just, shovel ready. How long would it take these projects once we've kind of moved them forward and done all the appropriate documentation, put this out? What realistically could we be looking at before we begin construction on one or both of these?
Well, if you're referring to the period between us accepting the project and actually putting it out on the street, we're talking about a matter of months, I would say. Beyond that, then once we put it on the street, we're looking at probably, and I looked at TxDOT because we haven't spent the time to really go through the documents just yet because they're not our projects yet. But I understand that each of these would be approximately about 2 years of construction period. Does that sound about right?
So potentially we could begin construction sometime in 2011 on both of these projects?
I believe that's what, actually, I'll ask Mr. Carbo to come back. He's got...
Yeah, once the project is turned over to the RMA, then the design could begin. Now, one of the questions that needs to be answered is whether this project will be developed under a design build delivery method or design bid build. And again, that's something that, a conversation that needs to happen. So we're estimating that if we go design bid build, probably the design could be done in about 9 to 12 months. Depends on how quickly and the resources that need to be put in. And the construction for the main lanes would probably take about 24 months. We're estimating that. And for the interchange, about 18 months.
Great.
And that decision on pursuing design build or design bid build would be your decision. And part of what has to happen before we bring that question to you is that once we accept the project and our general engineering consultant begins reviewing the project, they identify risks, they identify the remaining work to be done, and really they'll present, through work with myself as well, we will present a recommendation to you and ask for direction on design build or design bid build.
Just a quick question. Is the design build or the design bid build choice entirely ours, or there are some, I recall something about the amounts themselves, am I correct? There's a point at which it's no longer our choice. It has to be up for bid or something like that? Is that always the RMA's choice?
Well, the procurement method is always your choice. I mean, there are certain factors within a project that help you get to that decision, but the choice is always yours. Now, there is no choice with regard to putting it out and bidding it, obviously.
Right.
It's just a matter of which type of procurement process you would utilize.
Okay.
Any other questions? Great. Update and discussion and action on the following projects: Loop 375, Cesar Chavez project, and Loop 375 at I-10, America's Interchange project. Mr. Tejas?
These have been presented as update, discussion, and action items, although really they're, excuse me, they're really just update items. And no, I won't request any action of you all on these two. And I'll do that for future reference. I will usually post an item as a discussion and action item in case the board wants to take action. We have to have that posted. Anyhow, item 7A, which is the Loop 375 Cesar Chavez project. As you know, I was before you all at the last meeting in June requesting approval, actually, of the terms and conditions for the market valuation process. That approval was granted with certain revisions, and we scheduled the meeting before the MPO's subcommittee that deals with toll projects. That was scheduled actually for a Monday. And the idea was that it would go before the committee on Monday, and hopefully a recommendation would be developed that would then be presented to the full MPO board on that following Friday. Well, the Thursday prior was an item before the Texas Transportation Commission meeting, which is, of course, the governing body of TxDOT. And that item before them was request for a final approval of a financial assistance agreement. And that agreement would have given the RMA the authority to pursue this project, and also would have granted access to the $80.25 million that will be utilized for the project. The financial assistance agreement, since the initial discussion with TxDOT, had always been conceived as a grant. However, at the Texas Transportation Commission meeting on that Thursday, from the floor, it was changed from the language in particular that authorizing the financial assistance agreement was changed from grant to use of the term equity. The problem that we find ourselves in is that the term equity was not defined, and as you all know, equity could mean any number of things, and it could be something that we could work with, or maybe put this project outside of our hands. So unfortunately, we've not yet received a determination from TxDOT or the Transportation Commission with regard to what the term equity will mean in our specific instance. But to that point, the Transportation Commission is meeting this afternoon at 1:30, and among their agenda items, this is a work session today, their full meeting is tomorrow, but among the agenda items for their work session is really to flesh out what they intended by the term equity, and not only our project, but also to agreements with the Central Texas RMA. As you can imagine, this policy direction from the Transportation Commission could have a significant impact on regional mobilities throughout the state, including other tolling entities, NTTA in Dallas, HECTRA in Houston, and pretty much all of us are in the same boat waiting to figure out exactly what they meant. So today's meeting in the afternoon will be very enlightening for us. So at this point, Loop 375 Cesar Chavez is essentially on hold until we figure out what is meant by equity, and beyond that, I will likely have to I will bring that item back to you all because the terms have been slightly revised.
What we're specifically concerned about is if there's any payback provisions to the word equity itself. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
And we'll get that clarity today at a meeting 1:30.
I'm hopeful, yes, and I'll be watching it online, or actually they archive it. I believe we have another meeting scheduled. I have another meeting scheduled with our engineering folks and TxDOT on this same project around that same time, but I'll watch the archive footage, and we have our attorneys there. We share attorneys with the rest of the regional mobility authorities in the state, so they'll be there watching personally. So I will update you all as soon as we hear.
Any questions? Loop 375 at I-10, the Americas Interchange Project.
This item is actually good news. As you all will recall, in June at the last board meeting, I had a slew of items related to this project that I was asking for authorization for, including the execution of the State Infrastructure Bank loan, the execution of really the comprehensive development agreement subject to certain approvals and federal and state approvals. Well, we received, after those authorizations were granted by this board, we submitted all of our documentation. In fact, I brought it with you so you all have a feel for what has been submitted to the Attorney General. This entire package is everything that we've done, every substantive act that we've taken related to the Americas Interchange project. It includes the RFQ, the RFDP, all of the procurement documents that have been issued to date, as well as all of the agreements that we've entered into, including the State Infrastructure Bank loan, the pass-through toll agreement, and all of the other Transportation Reinvestment Zone agreement that we have with the City of El Paso, and all the other related agreements. So if you're interested, we have complete and fully executed agreements for the Americas Interchange project, and let me know if you'd like to review any of that. However, the good news about this item is that we have submitted this, and in fact, the compilation of this, what's referred to as transcript of proceedings, was required by the Attorney General. We have to turn this in to them for their review for legal sufficiency, is the term of art that they use. We have provided this transcript to them, and we had a conference call with them last week with our attorneys and myself. And generally, they were very pleased with the documentation. We received high marks on all of them. In fact, high praise on our financial documents that our general engineering consultant put together for us that we submitted. So they were very happy, and they made certain comments that made us believe that we should receive a letter from them, hopefully a letter of approval sometime this week. That's important because this is the next step in the process. Once we receive the approval from the Attorney General, then that approval goes on to TxDOT through the the Turnpike admin. I've gone blank.
Turnpike Authority.
Thank you. The TTA. I'm getting stuck using all the letters. Through the next step is for the AG's approval to go to the TTA, and from TxDOT, then it goes on to the FHWA for final approval through a letter of concurrence. So there are still a couple of steps that need to happen. However, we also have a provision within the bids that were submitted that allows for the current developer, which is Americas Gateway Builders, to include an escalation rate if we do not have an agreement, which in essence, once you work through this formula that's included in the agreement, that allows for escalation to occur starting on September 1. However, we believe everything is going to be put into place within the coming weeks, and I believe, and in fact, I have scheduled a meeting with the Americas Gateway Builders in Austin for August 31st to execute the comprehensive development agreement, and also for the CRRMA to issue the notice to proceed on that date, beating the September 1 escalation date.
What exactly needs to happen for us to execute that agreement with Americas Gateway Builders?
There are three things. First is the receipt of the Attorney General's essentially finding that the documents are legally sufficient.
Which we have.
Which not yet. That's the item that we're waiting for any minute here.
And to interject there, what would happen if they were to say X, Y, and Z documents of all these documents have to be reviewed? It slowed us down a little bit, but eventually they'd have to be sent back to them.
That's right.
Okay.
Now, and that's what the conference call was for, to identify any problems that would delay the process. And at that, during that conference call, we received, again, high marks, and the comments were that they weren't finding anything that would require revisions. They made several comments. In fact, we made some last-minute revisions to the documents at their request, which were, I won't say they're not substantive, but they are not objectionable, in our opinion, to the America's Gateway Builders. So we believe we're in good shape, and we're waiting for that approval. So that's the first item that we're waiting for. Once we receive that, then we forward that on to TxDOT, and they accept that. In fact, they have a letter that they forward, which I'm not sure if it attaches the AG or if they just can't send their own letter until the AG's approval comes in. Their letter goes on to FHW, the Federal Highway Administration, for final concurrence. And that the letter from TxDOT essentially says this process has been complete, it's appropriate, and we request final federal approval. Then at that point, upon receipt, the Federal Highway Administration then grants us authorization to execute the agreement. So there's 3 remaining steps, and we believe that as soon as we get the AG's opinion, we should be able to move very quickly.
Have we already alerted TxDOT and FHWA that these agreements are coming and tried to facilitate their movement through?
Absolutely, we have. And in fact, we've, since day one of this project, and I should commend TxDOT, TTA, and FHWA, every step of the way they've been involved with us in this project, and including attendance at one-on-one meetings between the RMA, the RMA's consultants, and the developers. We had a number of one-on-one meetings in Austin that TxDOT and FHWA attended, and the reason for that is exactly what you're talking about. They wanted to know what happened during the process so that the agreements, once they're done, there's nothing new in there. So they've been involved since day one. They've reviewed I believe, all of the documents that are included in here to date. So that's why I'm very comfortable with their concurrence coming very soon.
So our agreement with America's Gateway Builder basically is ready to go. We are just waiting for the approval to sign.
That's exactly right. And to that point also, I've asked for, and America's Gateway Builders has agreed to meet me in Austin on August 31st to sign the agreement and to receive the notice to proceed. So everything has been set up. As long as the AG completes what they need to do over the next day or so, then we believe TTA, TxDOT, and FHWA will fall into line as well. So I think we're in good shape.
I think it's commendable that from the very beginning you involved everybody, all the parties, instead of lining them up one, then second, then third, all from the beginning so that there are no surprises. Everything goes through at once. Everybody's sort of in agreement to do that. But still, what's the timeline we're looking at with all these approvals? Several months?
No, absolutely not. We're talking about a matter of days.
Oh, okay.
The Attorney General hopefully will be within the next day or two, and from there, the TxDOT letter should take approximately a day, and I understand that they actually walk their letter over to Federal Highways. So we're really talking about a matter of days, and that's important because we need to have those approvals before we can sign the agreement, which is currently scheduled for August 31st. And
If not, we are subject to escalation fees, so that's why this is
Yeah.
critical.
Okay.
That's right. And to your point, we've had excellent guidance from our general engineering consultant. They put together the team that led us through the procurement process, and you may recall Kim Daly is the lead of that team. She's made a couple of presentations to you all in the past. She's done an excellent job of making sure that everybody's lined up, and more importantly, making sure that they're involved since day one.
Great.
Thank them for that.
Any questions?
No, actually, just one again, mostly from TxDOT. We've read a lot in the paper about the escalation cost for the acquisition for the connectors. Is that going to cause a delay in the project or not?
For the record, I'm Chuck Berry, District Engineer for TxDOT in El Paso. No, sir, we don't anticipate that it would delay anything. We've been working around those extra weeks of work that were necessary to go back and redo the surveys and the land appraisals that were necessary. So we're cutting in on our float time, but we should still be able to proceed pretty close to the schedule that we anticipated.
And the incremental cost in dollars is not going to be a factor?
I think the paper said that, and they used my number of about, we think it could be as much as $4 million.
But I would mention from the RMA's end, the total project cost for this project and the funds that we have access to is $146 million. Within that, we've built in, I believe it's $8.1 million. Does that sound right?
8.2, I think it was, Raymond.
I'm trying to shave one off. It's 8.2 that we've agreed to provide towards the acquisition of the right-of-way. Now, if the right-of-way costs actually exceed the 8.2, then those costs are absorbed by TxDOT, so it will not affect this project.
Okay, so the money will not be an issue. Incremental costs won't be.
It won't be an issue to the RMA, sir, and it won't be an issue to the project. With respect to the perspective that was given here at this board meeting, I think it won't be an issue to y'all. Your executive director very shrewdly negotiated a cap on that amount.
And all your good news, Chuck, were framed by those heavenly bells there. So the well on time, and it won't cost you anything.
Yes, sir. And whatever you might have seen in the newspapers or elsewhere is being experienced across the entire state of Texas with that kind of occurrence. And some of those are stimulus-funded projects. Other work, I understand, up and down the I-35 corridor, where we're trying to expand I-35 headed from Mexico into the breadbasket of the United States, is even a larger problem than what we see here in El Paso.
All I was asking is, that as you know, the Alameda project was killed because of maneuvering of this nature, right? The city was in a.
There's the Alameda project, and thank you for the opportunity to kind of clarify that. I read the same this morning's paper, and it may lead people to believe that the Alameda project itself was not going to move forward. There were two components to the work that's proposed on Alameda. The city of El Paso had a component on relocating the intersection of El Paso Drive and improving the geometry of the intersection and the traffic operations. That was a small piece, about less than $500,000 worth of work. But the entire corridor project can continue and will continue. That's work from Boone Street to Glenwood. I think it's about 1.5 miles. We foresaw the possibility of this happening, so we're already reworking the design to delete or maybe postpone, do it another date, the El Paso Drive work. But the plan is to continue with the Alameda overall project for a bid date, ideally early next calendar year.
That's good news.
Yes, sir, I think so too. I read the headline and I went, oh my gosh, I missed something somewhere.
Missed the email somewhere.
Yes, I didn't get that memo.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I hope I answered your question on the right of way on the project that we're partnering on it.
Yes, you did. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you. I think that completes item 7. Items 8 and 9, Raymond, I believe those are going to be deleted or moved towards the next meeting. Is that correct?
Yes, I'd ask that the board delete items 8 and 9. Those both relate to the aesthetic project. This is also a project along the I-10 corridor through the comprehensive mobility plan. What I was looking to do was get authorization to execute the interlocal with the city of El Paso, and also to execute the work authorization with the general engineering consultant. However, the agreement with the city of El Paso got delayed a little bit, so we're working out the details on that, and I didn't want to bring this to the board with any blanks.
Mr. Davis, I appreciate that. Thank you for that. Item 10.
Thank you for the blanks.
Absolutely. Oh, and there are no blanks in here.
For you, Rob. We want to make sure that you were getting exactly what you needed with
Thank you.
everything filled in.
So I would ask for a motion to delete both items.
So move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Item 10, discussion and action on a board resolution approving the executive director's annual performance evaluation and authorizing the CRRMA chair to communicate the results of the evaluation to the city of El Paso.
Morning, Mr. Chairman. Norman Gordon, outside counsel. As you're all aware, we went through the evaluation process in which each of you were provided with the evaluation form and submitted your forms back to Ms. Rojas so that the information could be compiled. The information was compiled and considered by the Finance Committee at its meeting on Monday of this week. You have the opportunity, if you desire, to discuss that recommendation of the Finance Committee and the results of the evaluation, which was discussed with Mr. Tejas in executive session. Any action you take on it, obviously, is in an open session, if you so desire. Yeah, the contract that Mr. Tejas has with the city provides that there are certain changes to his compensation in the event that his performance evaluation exceeds expectations or better, and so the idea is that if you concur with that, the evaluations that you have done, that you communicate that information to the city.
Understand. I believe at this time, Raymond, we need to convene an executive session to discuss this with Mr. Gordon, our attorney. Is that correct?
That's at the discretion of the board. If you're interested in discussing it, then I think your attorney is recommending that you take it into executive session.
You're not required to, but you have the opportunity.
I think that we will do that, and we will execute the executive session for our section 555107.1, consultation with attorney.
And so what you need is a motion to go into executive session to consider personnel matters.
I so move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We will convene to executive session.
Is there a new opening on this floor?
Okay, it is 12:15 on August 25th. I need a motion to reconvene the CRRMA.
So moved.
Is there a
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye. Oh, excuse me, sorry. Didn't mean to do that.
Motion carries. We are back in business. So, back to item 10, discussion and action on a board resolution approving the executive director's annual performance evaluation and authorizing the CRRMA chair to communicate the results of the evaluation to the city of El Paso. Mr. Gordon?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, you have before you a form of resolution that I've prepared that has the recitations that talk about the contracts and the fact that Mr. Mateus's performance evaluation was and exceeds expectations for this year, and then allows the board to direct you to send the letter to the city of El Paso to direct that his salary and benefits be adjusted in accordance with his contract with the city, if the board is inclined to adopt that or take some other action.
Got it. We've reviewed that. Do I have a motion to accept the resolution?
So moved.
So, second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
And excuse me, that is effective September 1st.
Motion carries.
Just a quick comment. The reason I think my name's on this is this happened during the time that we're waiting for our current chair to be formally installed, I guess, so.
That's correct. In fact, I'm glad you mentioned that. I've gone back. The chair was appointed within the last couple of days, so that when the documents went out to you all, they actually included Mr. Adame as the vice chair to execute these documents. That has been changed on this resolution, as well as I believe we had another resolution elsewhere in the agenda. So all the documents reflect. They have blank lines for the secretary, so I'll add in Ms. Melendez's name to that section, and then the rest have been changed to reflect Mr. McLaughlin as the chair. Thank you for pointing that out.
Mr. Tejas, thank you for your continued great service to the CRRMA.
Thank you all very much for the consideration. I appreciate it.
Item number 11, discussion and action on a board resolution adopting the fiscal year 2011 CRRMA budget as recommended by the CRRMA Finance Committee.
Mr. Chair, as chair of the Finance Committee, we reviewed this budget this past week, and we are presenting this to the board as a motion for approval. I don't know if we want to have any further discussion regarding this.
I believe we may have found a typo in the budget. Do we need to revise that prior to accepting this in?
We did, actually. I apologize. Mr. Tejas,
Yes, sir.
at the bottom of our projected budget, our new chair found that it says net projected revenue over and under is in parentheses, projected expenses, and it actually is reversed. It would lead you to believe that our revenue exceeded expenses in the projected budget.
I'm
You
sorry.
could change the wording to that to say net projected expenses over projected revenue.
I think the concept, when we developed this template, and we can certainly do that, this is
Or
entirely up
switch
to the board.
Yeah.
The concept was to leave it as over, with, under, in parentheses to identify which one it is, I guess,
Yeah, but under project.
because you would have the
No,
revenue,
you're actually, no.
the revenue would be under in
No, it is
parentheses.
correct. I'm sorry. All of us, we actually looked at this and thought it was wrong. I apologize.
I was confused.
Revenue is under projected expenses.
Okay.
I should have known that.
David, are you a CPA?
I apologize. It's been a slow morning. Okay.
Texas A&M graduate confused.
Ignore that comment. So I think we're still on a motion here to approve this
So do we
budget.
have a motion?
We do.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item number 12, discussion and action on the selection of the CRRMA board meeting dates for the remainder of calendar year 2010.
By way of background, as you all know, the city of El Paso, originally, let me actually start there. Originally, the Camino Real RMA board used to meet on Fridays, and we had that scheduled for some time. I believe it was the third Fridays of each month. However, the city then decided to close City Hall on Fridays, so that pushed us, and we then started meeting on Thursdays. Since then, the council's legislative review committees now meet on Thursdays, so whenever the RMA had a board meeting scheduled for a Thursday and an LRC, legislative review committee, needed the meeting place on that Thursday, we would get bumped. So what we're looking to do, and incidentally, I should mention that the original plan from the city was that the Friday closures of City Hall would end in September. That has actually been pushed through their budget meetings through the end of this calendar year. So rather than doing what we're doing right now, which is somewhat chaotic, which is checking with your calendars on a specific date, I'd like to set the remaining meeting dates for the remainder of the year. I think that would be helpful for most of us. So with the details that I've shared with you in mind, Fridays are out, Tuesdays are out because those are council meeting dates. Thursdays I would recommend that we not consider because of the legislative review committees and the possibility of us getting bumped. So that really ultimately leaves us with Mondays and Wednesdays, and I would recommend Wednesdays. Beyond that, you'll see I passed out the meeting dates for council chambers. And I should mention also that the reason why we use this room is that this room is the only room that currently can videotape the meetings. And as you know, we live stream our meetings and we also archive them on our website. So it's important for transparency purposes that we continue to do that. So I think we need to meet in this room. Anyhow, with all of those factors in mind, in addition that the TTC meeting is normally in the later part of the month, and we also have some holidays coming up, which excludes certain Thursdays, I would recommend that we meet on the second Wednesday of September, October, and November of this year at 10 a.m. Now, I know that the chair may recommend a slightly later date, which is certainly fine, with the only proviso that this chamber is also taken from 2 to 4 on virtually every Wednesday through the end of the year for the city's bid opening. So if we move the date, we would have to vacate the room by probably 1:30, 1:45. But I'm fairly certain we can do that. This board is very efficient in its meetings, so I think we can do
So
that.
the only question is, Raymond is recommending 10 o'clock. If we are efficient and expedient, we potentially could move those meetings to 11. I just wanted to get the board's idea of what would be best for their schedule, what works for them, and then we'll move forward with posting the dates.
Is it really outrageous if we move the meetings to earlier, say 9 a.m.?
I think the problem is that there's bid openings on those particular days, on Wednesdays, and those could take some time. Is that correct?
Well, actually, the bid openings begin at 2 p.m. So,
In the morning at 8 o'clock, there's also openings as well, is there not?
no, sir, not on the second Wednesday.
Teams.
Okay.
On the second Wednesday, all of the mornings are opening.
And the only reason I say that is because if we start with our meeting, then we can go back to work, to the salt mines at 10:30, and then we're for the rest of the day.
Well, let's discuss what works best for the board, and we can, move forward.
Well, I can start telling you that Wednesdays works very well for me. I don't have any classes on Wednesdays. Wednesday mornings, that is.
So 9, 10, or 11?
9?
Nine's good for me.
Raymond, do you see any issues with 9 o'clock?
No, sir.
So I think that we've got an agreement, then we'll move forward with the second Wednesday for the next 3 months at 9 o'clock. Is that correct?
Very good. If I could actually have a motion of the board, and I'll reflect that in the motions of the entity.
I move that the meetings of the RMA be on Wednesdays, the second Wednesday of every month for September, October, November, and December at 9 a.m.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Item number 13, discussion and action on the Executive Director's Report, CRRMA's website improvements, and the CRRMA's social media, Facebook, and Twitter.
These are also merely updates for you all. Recently, we've updated the RMA's website, which is, of course, www.crrma.org. We've added material to the projects page. That was the one page in particular that was really lacking information. So we've had the opportunity, and we have filled out that page with all of the project's details. Now, I'll continue to work on those over the coming weeks. In fact, I think we need to develop more information for the Spur project and perhaps add the update that was provided today and some other information. But so that you know that information is now on the website. When and if you receive calls from consultants or other folks that are interested in the projects, you can now refer them to that page. We also have a CRRMA notices section on each of the pages as well, which I think is helpful. We've received some positive comments back on those improvements. Beyond that, we will be developing another, basically a button. As you know, from the home page, we have 8 buttons, one for projects, one for meetings, and that sort of thing. We will be adding one likely titled Outreach, where we will include all of the press releases that we provide and also contact information in case an entity wants us, an agency or an entity wants us to come speak to them. We'll have all of our contact information, all of our presentations there, a listing of the presentations that we've made recently and upcoming events as well. So we'll continue to update our website like that.
Mr. Tejas, who is working with you to take a look at how we can continue to enhance the websites and continue to make it more user-friendly and get more information out there?
Well, we actually, the content is all developed by the RMA, and then we provide that content to the city's IT staff, and they develop the website and update it periodically. But with regard to who's actually looking at it, making sure that it's serving the needs of our users, that's ultimately myself and also our outreach folks, Suzanne Michaels and her group. They review it and make sure, and they are looking to make sure that we're covering everything we need to. So
I just think it's important that we continue to try to keep it refreshed so we can continue to drive interest and to get our message out about the work that the CRRMA is doing.
Absolutely, and in fact, the outreach came as a result of a discussion with a reporter not too long ago. So we're also hopeful. In fact, we have in our website a request that anyone who's using the website, please send us a note at info@crrma.org with regard to any proposed improvements or any problems they're having. So on occasion, we do actually hear from the public, and we incorporate those immediately.
Right, and I'd ask the board that if you haven't looked at the website in a while, take a look, and if you have some improvements, please Mr. Tejas know, see how we can continue to enhance that.
Please.
Just a question, are we tracking hits onto the website, or do we know how many people are logging on?
Yes, we do. We have that capability, and I'll share that with the board. I'll send something out later today.
Thank you.
Raymond, for clarification, as we engage some of these social networks like Facebook and Twitter, as you know, we have a policy that the only one that can speak for the RMA is the chair, and in the absence of the chair, I think the executive director. How are we going to keep dialogue from occurring on Twitter and Facebook? Ms. Michaels?
Good morning, everyone. Suzanne Michaels, Public Outreach for the CRRMA. I have to tell you that Facebook and Twitter are not my area of expertise. This is where I've finally realized that there is a generational gap, and I'm part of it. But my assistant, Esmeralda Almanza, who is getting ready to graduate from UTEP, has signed us up. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter right now. All of you who have Facebook pages have been invited to become friends. And if you will go and click like, you will hit, all sorts of information. We're putting out tweets on the RMA, and if you are signed up on Twitter, you will start getting those tweets, but you have to go to the site and sign up. If you search for the CRRMA on Twitter, unless you are signed up with it, you will not find it yet. We are finding that companies like JCPenney, Starbucks, other companies who invest millions of dollars a year with Facebook and have advertising on there, if you search for their names, they will come up. But the RMA, I don't foresee that we'll be doing that. We want to be available to the public. Every time we're speaking to people now in English and in Spanish, we're asking them if they have Facebook and to please go and to, be aware and sign up so that they know about the changes that are coming about and get alerts on traffic projects that are going to be ongoing and getting ready to go into effect. So I'm not sure that I'd answered your question. Would you?
Well, okay, you can go ahead. I think the intent is to post
meeting notices.
Yes.
Yeah, to Facebook, like all organizations do, but
yes.
not to allow for that dialogue.
Right.
You know,
The
because-
idea is to put information out there at that location. At the same
That's
time,
done to the invite feature of Facebook versus the dialogue, which is you can actually make commentaries and carry a discourse. And so since the only one that can really do that is you, and unless you want to think it could be burdensome, I don't think we want to do it at all. But if we leave that open and somebody writes a question and it's not answered, or we don't respond, it could cause.
I think that on the Facebook, it's fairly simple in the sense that you, for example, if there's an update on the project and the construction or something like that, it's something you feed into the Facebook, and then all the friends will get in their news feed.
Right.
And they don't, I mean, they may say, I like it, I dislike it, whatever, but there's no dialogue. Twitter, though, yeah, it's a generational gap. That one I do not understand. The Facebook is fairly simple, and there is no dialogue if you just don't reply. You're simply posting information into the friends news feed.
and
Twitter is kind of.
Yeah, Twitter has specific uses. As we go along, we may find more uses for it with the RMA. The website does provide the opportunity for, responses, as Raymond just pointed out. If you have suggestions, and we are linking to the website in the tweets and in the Facebook notices that we put out there. We put the agenda on Facebook, a link to it. So sort of the three entities working together between the website, Facebook, and Twitter, I think that there is an opportunity to respond, and we certainly, at every meeting that we're talking to, we're inviting people to please have us come to other groups, to go to the website, to find out more about what we're doing, and stressing that this agency is critical to the transportation future of El Paso. And I think we're finding people who, there was a teacher the other day who was very eager to connect with us on Facebook and find out about where he could drive, could not, and was also Twitter friendly. And this is just a whole new ballgame if you're not, looking to your phone constantly to get updates. So
I think to Mr. Adami's point, I think we want to make the direction of the communication one way.
Yes.
And then as you're evaluating this and you're seeing how this is working, if you think we need to change this, then we need to discuss it here with the board and try to come up with some sort of policy as far as how that's going to be. So basically, we're going to be posting information about what we're doing, how we're doing, meeting dates, projects that we need to get out to the public.
yes, this is another tool, and if I might ask all of you who are here to please go to Facebook and to Twitter and to sign up as friends so that you are part of the community getting the information, that would be really helpful too. We're finding that the more people who ask to get the tweets, for example, the higher up we are in the search engine list, so that when somebody types in CRRMA, then they will find our site. So if I could ask you to do that, if you, even I have a Facebook page now. So, because I want to see what the information is, and be in tune with that. If we start having, issues one way or another that we didn't anticipate, I would absolutely say, we need to look at that immediately and develop some sort of a policy. At this point, it's sort of a baby step just to get out there and let people know that we are out there in, a part of social media, and that we do want to connect with them, and we're trying to get information out to there, every pathway that we can think of.
I think it's a legitimate concern because we don't want to violate the Open Meetings Act, I suppose, right? So we want to make sure that it doesn't look like we're having a meeting online
Right.
and discussing things with people and making decisions online and stuff like that. So I think it's something for the governance committee and the executive director to begin to look at, because it's a new challenge, and you're just gonna have to put it on the agenda of the governance committee.
I think if we keep the flow of the data just one way without responding or having communications, I think we're going to be fine.
We can do
It's
that.
just informative.
And the reason I think it's so important is because the people that are going to be using this infrastructure the longest, to a large extent, are these teenagers and 20-somethings that are using these types of medium. They're going to be impacted to the greatest extent, more than I will, in terms of how this is going to improve transportation mobility in this area. So I'd like them to at least know and have the ability to be involved.
Exactly, and this is reaching a good way to reach the younger drivers, who that becomes their source of information, more than what we're used to. I mean, it's just a whole new ballgame.
Right.
What is what are we under, CRRMA or just RMA?
On Twitter, we're CRRMA El Paso, and on Facebook, Camino Real Regional Mobility Authority.
Oh, make it easy, why don't you?
As the search functions in both of those entities become more more sophisticated, as they would be if you go to Google and you type in CRRMA, obviously you're going to get all sorts of things coming up. And I think as the search functions on Facebook and Twitter become more sophisticated, the same thing will happen there. And as we do more with it, we rise up and it becomes easier to find us.
Right? Any other questions?
Nope.
Suzanne, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Tejas, do we have any other business?
No, sir, that's all I have.
At this point, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.